I'm Frank Caruso, producer of Oregon Live, and welcome to another brand new episode. I got to walk out into the wilderness, into the woods, into the prairie with what I call the alphabet lady, the nature's alphabet. And she was teaching me how to look for letters of the alphabet in nature. So just moments ago, I went out into my own yard and I saw that a oak tree leaf had fallen into one of the bushes, and what do you know? It's a U. And if I hadn't been with Jann, I probably wouldn't have seen that, as you will discover in this episode of Oregon Life.
Stopping here in part because already you can see some letters in nature. You can see Y's. That's sort of a D. The inception of the book started through the eyes of my son Ben and my son Matt. My parents have a cottage on the Wisconsin River, and we were actually exploring the sandbars on the Wisconsin River. And I'm pointing out some things out in the outdoors on the sandbars that look like letters. And my son Ben, who had just learned to print his name, saw a clamshell that was half buried in the sand and got really, really excited and said, "Mom, come look, I found the letter B." And from there I thought, wow, this would be really, really cool to write a children's book that includes the letters in nature. And Ben and Matt did some other explorations with me over the years. Eventually, of course, I went solo and looked for letters in nature, and it's just so addictive. You go out on walks, and I've trained my eye to look for letters in nature. And the other thing that I found that was really cool is that you can see letters all seasons of the year. You know, initially, I love spring, I love summer, I like warm weather. But in winter, when leaves have fallen off the trees and you can kind of make out the branches and other shapes appear in trees, for example, you find other letters. In my journey of searching for letters in nature, I've had some really, really cool experiences. A couple that come to mind, one in particular was when I was in Colorado and we saw elk. And these elk were actually in a town, not out in the mountains. We were outside of the Rocky Mountains, and I'm zeroing in on its rack and I see the letter Y. I just thought, oh, this is so cool. So just this part of this large animal forms a letter. Another really cool experience I had, and this was, here in Wisconsin. I'm up at my husband's family's cottage doing some hiking, and very interested in butterflies, love butterflies, and saw a butterfly that was feasting on a goldenrod. And I was able to I got a really cool picture. When I got home, I thought, oh my gosh, this part of the butterfly forms the letter B. So sometimes I was just very excited about getting this really great shot of the butterfly, but sometimes when you come home and you look at your image, I was even more excited because I found the letter B in its wings. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, look at this incredible tree. The light just really brings out its shape and form. And not only that, what is coexisting with this tree? You see a vine wrapping around it. And that could be a place where you could find a letter if you look carefully enough. I think to actually really focus on something for a while and look at all of its different features, its whole as well as its parts. In the details, you see some pretty amazing things. Maybe if we got closer to the tree, we might even see some insects. Another great reason to come and visit Anderson Farm Park is to look for the beautiful painted rocks. Each rock represents a letter of the alphabet, and an image of either an animal, plant, or activity is painted on the rock. 20 area artists painted the rocks, and they're placed on all the trails. There's probably 3, 4, maybe even sometimes 5 rocks on each trail. And it's really fun to try to find A through Z. This is my brother John. He's a super volunteer at Anderson Farm Park, and he's actually holding on to one of the rocks that was painted by Ken Anderson of the robin, which is Wisconsin's state bird. And I love the fact that he did an outline of the state of Wisconsin around the bird. And we painted pavers that the rock will be glued to, and on each paver we indicate who actually painted the rock and the fact that it's property of Anderson Farm Park. We want the rocks to stay put so that everybody can come here and enjoy them. Here's a letter I. One of the easier letters to find, I will admit. Probably one of the first letters I found in nature. As you're searching for letters in alphabet, you want to not only look down on the ground and up into the trees and the leaves, and sometimes straight ahead as well. You can kind of see an F here. You know, it's an area in here that I think is really fun to look for letters in is the prairie. And so we're headed that way right now. And hopefully the prairie will cooperate and we'll find some letters. If not, you know what? It's just really fun to look at the flowers that are in the prairies, the prairie that are still blooming. And here's another rock. Here is the P. And if you really look, you'll see not only is it a porcupine, hey, there's an inchworm on the rock. Is that ever cool? And the paver was purposely painted pink because it also begins with P. This one was painted by a colleague of mine, Ruth Phillips. She teaches art at Stoughton High School. And as we keep going, we're going to see another rock that's on the trail on our left-hand side. And we'll also search for some letters as we go. But as I said, I think we're going to find some letters in the prairie. So coming up fairly soon, there's some rocks that are here on the trail. And among those rocks is a painted rock. It's the letter A when we finally get there. But, you know, I don't know why. This is one of the rocks that I walk by all the time, in part because it's a little bit smaller rock and it's a little bit more covered by foliage. So anyway, here we come. Here's the rock path on the left, and you can see the letter A. This was painted by my son Ben's girlfriend, Cation Jones. And what I really love that she did is, notice all the A's. The lead ant is holding an apple core, and the middle ant is holding an acorn, and the final ant is holding a arugula leaf. In addition to seeing all of the beautiful painted rocks in the park, we have a number of fairy doors. Most of them are attached to trees along the trails. And this is actually one of my favorites. It makes me want to climb a tree. Prairies are one of my absolute favorite places to immerse myself in. They're buzzing with life. You see birds flying in and perching on, it could be a milkweed pod. You see insects. I love fireflies at night. This whole place, it's like nature's most beautiful light show. And the flowers, the different blooms. And in fact, The seasons the passing of seasons are kind of predicted in part through the colors you see in prairies. There's a lot of yellow and purple during the fall. And I love all the grasses. They've gotten taller and they wave at us in the wind. It's just a really great place to appreciate nature's beauty. My nephew Jesse Graves painted the letter Y, and it's a yoga pose. It's actually the tree pose. And yoga actually is done here in Anderson Farm Park. Wishing Tree Studio has had outdoor yoga sessions. This is one of the latest additions to the alphabet hunt out here with the painted rocks. It's a dragonfly that was painted by Warren Olson, not someone I've met, but he lives in Oregon. We just found the letter J, Jack in the Pulpit, which is a flower that grows prolifically in the park itself, and it was painted by Ann Kleckner. We found the letter W. This is a wolf that Jackie Graves painted. We found another letter, the letter N, the robin's bird's nest. And this was painted by Mary Hilgendorf. And if we keep heading west, I can see another rock, painted rock. This is the letter V, violets, which also are a flower, spring ephemeral that grow in the park. And this was also painted by Jackie Graves. This particular rock also represents an activity that I've seen people enjoy here in the park, kiting. And I helped my son's girlfriend, Kayshan Jones, paint this particular rock, so it was a lot of fun. I'm not much of an artist other than I love photography, but I had fun helping with it. Here's another fairy door, and I've heard that at night the fairies come out and play. And it makes you wonder about all the nocturnal animals that are out playing in the night and what they're actually up to while we're in bed sleeping. So this particular rock was painted by Francine Tompkins, and she affectionately named it Henrietta. Henrietta is a hawk. I actually photographed a hawk in the park, and she took a look at my photograph and she represented it by painting it on this rock. This is one of the first fairies doors that came into the park, and I love the fact that it has all of these beautiful windows, and it makes me wonder how many fairies live in this little home. This is Sue Berge's stone, painted rock. Over here, I had mentioned before that you should, when you're searching, you should look down at your feet too. You know, kind of make like a caterpillar and look down and look at this cool tree stump with the branch that's shooting out from it, or root. It forms the Q, I think, a Q. If you were to just photograph this part of it, you crop it, you get a Q. So as I continue to look down, I'm noticing another letter. Do you see the letter Y? And actually, if you were to crop it, you could also get a V, right? This particular rock is placed along the bike path for good reason. It's a badger. And of course, we think of the badgers, UW Bucky Badger, and it's riding a bike. And the other bee that's represented in this particular rock are the blue butterflies that are kind of traveling companions with the badger. We found another fairy door, and this one is in just an awesome tree. I think this particular fairy family found one of the best areas to build their home. This tree just is glorious, isn't it? Looks like it has arms reaching out up towards the sky. We found the letter X. This rock was painted by Julia Gerhards, an Oregon graduate. And it pays homage to a fun activity that's done in the park, cross-country skiing. I hope you enjoyed our walk in the woods, looking for letters in nature and looking at the fairy doors and the painted rocks. Thank you for watching Oregon Life.